Alan S. wants to know if I still think that this character P-Boy is a jerk for giving the New York Times these letters that were written by Hillary Clinton um, between the years of 1965 and 1969. She was a friend of his. His name's John P-Boy. He's now a college professor. She wrote things like, "Since Christmas vacation, I've gone through 3.5 metamorphoses, and I'm beginning to feel as though there's a smorgasbord of personalities spread before me. So far, I've used alienated academic, involved pseudo-hippie, educational and social reformer, and one half of withdrawn simplicity." So that means when she was writing that letter, she was in the middle of doing withdrawn simplicity. And here he is blowing her cover, revealing her letters. But there's some question. I said I thought he was a jerk for revealing it and that he shouldn't have done it. But a lot of people in the comments are saying they think that the Hillary campaign is really behind it and that he only released them because she wanted him to. And of course, part of doing the release well is not revealing that they actually wanted it, giving us a sense of looking into the secret. This is a little bit like the Robin Gavin column about Hillary showing a little bit of cleavage, that she didn't show it in a forthright way like this some English Home Secretary had done, but she just showed just enough that you would think that maybe she didn't really mean to do it. So then you get to see it. You get to have the sense that she's womanly, because after all she has cleavage, but she's not there saying, "Hey, look at my cleavage," and it's sort of like, well, why are you looking? And you have this sense of the voyeur about it. Similarly, with these letters, we have this sense of the voyeur about it. But I think she's doing it on purpose. I think she showed the cleavage on purpose, too. I don't think people just accidentally. I think women know where their breasts are and know exactly how much of them they're showing in their clothes. And if they don't, if the argument is, "I don't know what I'm doing, I don't know how much of my breasts are showing," then how can you be competent to be president? You have to be in control. And of course, she's famously controlled. That's the whole thing about her, isn't it? So then she lets some things out as if maybe she isn't that controlled. But I think even the letting out of the little bit of the uncontrolled seeming aspect of her is itself very calculated. So I think the better argument is probably on the side of she let these letters come out. She gave John P-Boy the go-ahead to put out those letters. So that's what I'm going to say there. So let's, since we know we can look, let's go ahead and look. Let's gawk at the letters. Let's go back to that quote. "Since Christmas vacation, I've gone through 3.5 metamorphoses and am beginning to feel as though there is a smorgasbord of personalities spread before me." A little bit of the Sybil effect, isn't it? The multiple personalities, the 3 faces of Eve, the 3.5 faces of Hillary Clinton. So far, I've used alienated academic. Right? She decides she doesn't want to go into academics. Involved pseudo-hippie. She was never a real hippie. She was always just a pseudo-hippie. Weren't we all? Who were the real hippies? I, at the time, felt that all the seeming, I always felt that the closest you could do was to be sort of just a pseudo-hippie, unless you completely, if you were still in college, how could you really be a hippie? Not really committed yet, right? Involved. What makes you an involved hippie? Apparently there's no revelations of drug use, so I don't know what you're really involved with there. Or maybe you're a pseudo-hippie who's involved in politics. Not sure what she's involved in. Oh, I'm so involved. Did we talk like that back then? I'm committed. I'm relevant. There are these sort of abstract terms that seem to need some object to be connected to it, but yet there was none. I'm involved. Involved in what? No what? I'm just involved. I'm involved. And I'm convoluted. Educational and social reformer, that was another one of hers, that she had already used up, but apparently not. She got back to it. And one half of withdrawn simplicity. Another quote is, "Sunday was lethargic from the beginning as I wallowed in a morass of general and specific dislike and pity for most people, but me especially." Well, so she admits to being self-pitying. That shows some inwardness. That shows something more than the ultimate political robot. right? I felt a morass of general and specific dislike and pity for most people, but me especially. Dislike and pity for most people. Throwing in the for me especially might not be that I pity myself so much as to say I dislike myself. I kind of had to tag that on because I just got done saying that I really dislike people. Does she dislike people? And is this, but especially myself, is that tagged on to kind of distract attention from the fact that she just said she didn't like people? Another quote is, can you be a misanthrope and still love or enjoy some individuals? How about a compassionate misanthrope? And Pogo, one of our commenters, said very perceptively in the comments, compassionate misanthropism, or I think it should be misanthropy, compassionate misanthropism is the best summary I have ever heard of left liberal thought, which indeed results from a process by which everyone else would disappear. And that last quote, everyone else would disappear, that's something also that is in a quote of hers. She talks about being a little girl and believing she was the only person in the universe, and that she had a sense that if she turned around quickly, everyone else would disappear, spin around and make the world disappear. Her letter, I'd play out in the patch of sunlight that broke the density of the elms in front of our house and pretend there were heavenly movie cameras watching every move, she says. She yearns for all the excitement and discoveries of life without losing that little girl in the sunlight. So she has this impression of herself that she wants to hold on to her youth. And the impression is of being alone, twirling around in the sunlight, and having this fantasy that twirling around would make everyone in the world go away. And that's the youth she wants to hold on to. That's the picture of youth. To be the little girl in the sunlight sounds very optimistic and beautiful. But if you think of what it was for her a picture of spinning around and making everyone else go away. It's a little disturbing, especially when she also talks about misanthropy, but also wanting to be a compassionate misanthrope. What does that mean? And I picked out the phrase, the patch of sunlight that broke the density of the elms. Who writes like that? The patch of sunlight that broke the density of the elms? I think that sounds like an earnest young person trying to do creative writing. I hate the creative writing type of writing. Broke the density of the elms. I mean, it's one thing to write that. It's another thing not to know to strike that out. Of course, when you're writing letters, in those days, writing longhand, you didn't really go back and, rewrite them. So broke the density of the elms. I think, she should have at least gone back and pointed an arrow at it and wrote, I'm such a fool, or something like that, Where's the humor? Is there any humor in these letters, by the way? The New York Times points out that there's no damaging revelations. There's nothing about drugs or sex or some idiotic politics or anything like that. There's nothing like that. So is the lack of anything like that a bad thing? Shouldn't there be some youthful indiscretions? Isn't it indiscreet to have no indiscretions in your youth? And again, where's the humor? What breaks the density of the elms? The density of the prose. What breaks the density of that prose? Where's the sunlight? Where's the sunlight? Where's the humor? Or is it all so terribly ponderous? On the other hand, we need serious, ponderous people to carry the weight of the world and to do the difficult business of politics. I'm not volunteering for it myself. But all of this was by way of answering Alan S.'s question, do you still think Mr. Peaboy was a jerk for releasing the Hillary letters? As I said, I'm leaning toward the idea that the campaign was really behind it and that they were hoping to humanize her by making us think we're getting an illicit look into her intimate self, just like that cleavage was designed to be deniable. We didn't say look there, but you looked, because you are absorbed with wanting to see intimate things about your